Mark, wonderful to meet with you, and thank you for coming on board today on our show. It's good to have you at Bar Talks.
It's a pleasure for me to have you.
I think it's good. I think we should tell people that we are COVID protected.
Yeah.
Because I've had my shots with Pfizer. You have your
Antibodies.
Because you already had you recovered. So the proximity of our communication is not a problem really. I don't think it is. And well, if somebody thinks we do, please write and tell me we do. But I don't think we do because we've had the protective, you through natural ways and me through inoculation of this vaccine. Anyway, I kind of figured that we would have some things, knowing you as I have gotten to know you, things that you could share with me of topics that you think are important in the area of, people walking the streets on a daily basis, your generational view. What's the thing that's going on that people are most concerned or talking about, that we can actually have a discussion and share our non-expert but individual opinions about, right? Okay, so go.
So I think the most common problem is that we have a COVID-19.
Yeah.
That is the global problem.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Lithuanians are doing the good stuff. We're not making progress. And as you probably heard, we're just releasing everything. We're going to open every restaurant, all the bars, everything. And I think it's only just going to be for a couple of weeks until the numbers rises, and then we're going to be shut down again.
Yeah, I think, but we should take the Lithuanian context and make it a global context, right? Because it's a pandemic and it's global. And I think Lithuania is symptomatic of what every government is doing everywhere, which is nothing more than making their population psychologically maybe feel good. It's a feel-good thing. I mean, if you think about it, running a bar or a lounge or a restaurant, you get to open only till 9 o'clock in the evening. Now, I don't know which nightclub or bar or lounge or restaurant actually operates before 9 o'clock in the evening, right? Then you think about, what are you really selling? If you're selling a 2 or a 3 euro beer, it's not making money. It costs you more to stay open just to let people know you're alive when you really shouldn't be alive anyway. Right?
Yeah.
Right? So I think we're talking about the same things, but I think government, and I want you to tell me what you think, is missing the vision, the will, and the passion to actually make a difference. Think about it like this. We don't know where patient zero really is. We don't know where ground zero, other than it being China and potentially Wuhan, is. Minus all the conspiracy nonsense, because we're going to discuss conspiracy nonsense. I've developed an anti-conspiracy pill for all those people that think it happened somewhere outside of China, or people that believe in the lizard fucking mind people thing or something. Or the QAnon thing, in the United States. Oh my God, I have the anti-conspiracy pill. We're going to get into the anti-conspiracy pill and I think for 10 euros, they could buy one anti-conspiracy pill from me that could save the rest of their lives, and God knows probably their communities as well.
Actually, you're making good marketing right now.
Well, I don't have it yet, but it's under development. Kind of like the vaccine. It's going to take about 18 months, but when I do have it, it's going to take care of all of your conspiracy, convoluted thought processes. Okay? There's something that we have to get back to that's common sense. But let's go to COVID for a second. Let's go back to COVID for a second. To me, it would have made more sense if there was political leadership will to say, we're going to lock everything down for 60 days. Just kill it.
Yeah, that should have been.
You could wait for the vaccine to come in 18 months, but if the virus has nowhere to go, where's it going? I don't know. What do you think about this?
I agree with you. I definitely think that it would have been the best option would be total lockdown from the start.
Yeah.
That would be. I thought that was the best idea that the government can come up with, but yet.
And they didn't, right? And they didn't. And so tell me, what really happened here? Speak to me. What happened here? Because I know, but I want to hear from you too.
My personal opinion is I don't think that they suggested they didn't thought about it globally, because Yeah, because
What do
like
you think?
it didn't happen in just
Okay.
one country, but it spread all around the world.
Right.
And then I didn't feel like that they had it under control.
So governments didn't coordinate.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't meet their requirement of obligation and responsibility to their people because we have government inefficiency and government complacency. And it's not Lithuania, it's the world over.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday or day before yesterday, as I get the news overseas, there was a hearing with Dr. Fauci in the United States in front of a congressional panel. And there you have the GOP hero, oh, Representative Jordan, ooh, with his sleeves rolled up, you know, and his mask falling. Probably he's not, I don't know if he's had his shots or not, but he made a mockery out of wearing that mask. At least I have my shots, and you have your antibodies. But here's this guy personally making what's called an ad hominem. You understand ad hominem?
Yeah.
It's a Latin term, it means personal attack. You're attacking Fauci by saying, when is this going to be over? People's constitutional rights are being violated. They don't have the right to free assembly as guaranteed under the first Constitution of the United States. And I got to tell you, I actually graduated through law school in the United States. I have my Juris Doctorate. And I'm looking at this guy and I'm hearing him, and I'm saying, why are you pouncing on this man who's only taking official policy positions of what every medical agency and professional has talked about? Get yourself vaccinated. Get to the point where you have 80 to 90%. This is not new. He's asking when. There's no specific date. When you get 80% vaccinated, you can walk. This guy didn't. You know what Fauci did? Fauci was very, very correct. He maintained composure, did not challenge the representative, but what he should have said is, I didn't start this virus, just like you didn't start this virus. The right to free assembly does not mean you can infect and compromise other people's lives. There are court cases that have established this. You know? So there's so much theater that goes on that the politician in government is only concerned about his reelection. He's only concerned about being the opera star at a hearing in the United States Congress, that he has forgotten that he is there to represent the interest of the people, and you can't have an interest of the people if the people are dead. So the first priority ought to be keeping them safe and alive.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, actually.
You know, then, right, and then if you look at what happened yesterday in Chicago, right, a 13-year-old kid gets shot, and the mayor of Chicago ends up on the airways in tears. What did you think about that? I mean, just tell me. I mean, you see it, you see a 13-year-old getting shot, you see the police body cam, you see the mayor coming out, apologizing and crying, empathically, emotionally, in care of that family and that lost life of that young 13-year-old. What do you walk away with when you see that?
Okay, like, so first of all, I don't think like those teenagers, as I'm familiar with it, he was like 13 years old,
Yes.
and he was with a guy that was 21 years old.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, I want to talk about like the problem with the gathering surroundings of
Yeah.
your like friends, you know? Like, first of all, I don't think that his friend that was 21 years old, he didn't do a good job as his friend first for protecting him.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, like the police officer shut down him. He shot him in the chest.
Yes.
And I don't think that was really the case. Like he just dropped his gun, and the police officer, like, he could have known better that, like, in this kind of situation,
Right.
he didn't need to do this kind of stuff.
Didn't need to do what kind of stuff?
He didn't need to shoot him in the chest.
So he should have then waited in the darkness of the night, to do an anatomical survey.
He dropped the gun. I mean, he
Well,
dropped the gun.
But the cop didn't see him drop the gun. He dropped the gun behind the fence.
So like,
He had his hand in his pocket. If you look at the video, I wish there was a way we could play the video, but I guess there isn't. But we might be able to play the video. And if you look at the video, he has his hands in his pocket. He throws his weapon behind a fence, a broken fence, with one hand still in the pocket of his jumper, and turns around pulling his hand out. And at that point, it's a split-second decision. You know, I have the same questions you have. I think the loss of life is regrettable. But I also have the question, not only is why is the 21-year-old responsible for the 13-year-old, and legally he is, but the 13-year-old's parents should be responsible for the 13-year-old.
okay, but like, as I said earlier,
Yeah.
as we talk like globally,
Yeah.
why doesn't it happen in Europe? Why doesn't it happen in other countries, but only in the USA? We've seen this kind of stuff like happen over and over again.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it happens there, because our history and development is different. Let me ask you a question to give you a comparable response by asking a question. Okay? Why is it that Europe has managed to have 2 world wars and the United States hasn't happened to have even one of them? Why is it that Europe manages to kill millions and millions of people in global conflicts, including taking their colonies into the combat zone? The United States doesn't do that. So I don't think we should be comparing apples to oranges. What we ought to be doing is surgically assessing one given situation within its own environment. Now, there are universal values we could talk about, and the universal values are parents having responsibilities of their children. We could talk about the Chicago shooting in the totality of its circumstances, which is you have a 21-year-old and a 13-year-old firing weapons at a car that passed by. Let's look at it from the beginning. Why did the police engage the situation? Because someone phone called the police and said, someone is shooting at a passerby vehicle. So the police are responding to a scenario where there is already gunplay in place. Now, you have a law enforcement officer pursuing on foot a suspect. He tells that suspect to stop. The suspect continues to flee and run on foot. The police officer pursues that suspect. He doesn't know what the age of that suspect is. The guy didn't drop his ID and driving license and scream, "I'm running, but I'm only 13. Don't shoot me." He kept running. Nobody's going to stop and say, "Oh, this is my age and this is my name and this is my address, but I keep running."
It's really like,
Right?
as you told you, like he was 13 years old.
So
Tell me sincerely.
Listen, I'm very sorry he lost his life at 13, but I'd also be sorry if somebody lost their life at 31.
But like, as you mentioned, he was just 13 years old. Like, as a police officer, you don't notice that, like,
don't
that is the kid?
You don't know.
It's only the kid.
Well, maybe he's just a short guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, oh, really? Why? You got height discrimination going on in this conversation? I don't know. I don't know. All I know is you're in pursuit. This is a law enforcement officer with 0 complaints on his record. This is a law enforcement officer that served in the military of the United States. He has a good record. He is in pursuit of defense of serving the security of the people. He's responding to a shooting incident. Why is the 13-year-old out on his own? Why is the 13-year-old carrying a weapon? Why is a 13-year-old carrying a weapon? Why is a 13-year-old carrying a loaded weapon? Why is a 13-year-old not ceasing and desisting his flight when you have a law enforcement officer saying stop before his weapon is drawn? Why? Why? I mean, the mayor showed empathy in Chicago and emotion by crying. She showed her humanity. I want to beg the question, if that police officer had been shot, if that kid had not dropped the weapon, if that kid still had the weapon and had turned around, and that police officer would have somehow in prepared to drop his life, which I don't think is necessary just because you put on a uniform. You got to defend your life first, whether you don't defend anybody else's life. He's pursuing a threat to the security and safety of his community because there is a shooting incident that has been reported. He is pursuing that suspect. This suspect is refusing to stop running and just put his hands up. He just had to put his hands up. The gun would have been found on him. He's a 13-year-old. He didn't know that no real implications would have carried as an adolescent, as a juvenile.
Okay, so
right? Hang on. But now he stops at a point where he sees a gap in a fence, tosses the weapon out, because that weapon didn't fall from the sky like a meteor just to drop there. It didn't just happen to grow like a weed of a plant. He turns around in a split second, and he has his hand in his pocket, and he goes up. You know what? I want that cop to go home to his family in as much as I wanted that 13-year-old to go home to his family. And I just want to know that if in that initial shooting, if that driver that was passing by that they were shooting at, had that driver been killed or maimed, would the mayor have still cried for that driver or that driver's family? I think we don't have enough to take anything to court or against court, but we have to assess things. And we have to really look. Not every time that there is a shooting is the guy in uniform always going to be at fault.
Okay, so like in this kind of situation, which side do you blame?
I don't
the
blame
parents, the parents that raised the child, or the police officer? Because like from all your arguments, I guess you're on the police side.
No, I'm on the side of what makes the most reasonable sense. You can't restrain one side of the law from the other. This is a very heated topic. Here's what I'd like to do. We have to conclude today's session, but the bad news for you is you have to come back, because we need to carry this conversation forward.
I'd love to.
I'd be happy to have you. And I thank you for coming today. Thank you so much. You all have a great day.